Hello everyone, I'm Pooja Sethi, Group Editor Z Enterprise, and today on the occasion of World Mental Health Day, we speak on mental health, the mind-breath connection. As we all know, mental health is integral for the overall well-being of a person. Mental health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Many a times, people do not even realize that they are suffering from any mental health problems. The lack of awareness and fear of social stigma often prevent a person from seeking help. The pace of modern life and a hectic schedule puts undue pressure on a person. Add to this, now the coronavirus crisis is pushing the world into a much larger mental health crisis. Stress, anxiety, and depression are far more common these days than you may suspect. While modern medicine continues to help people overcome the mental health challenges, but today, more than ever, there is a need to look at methods which can empower individuals to themselves take care of their mental well being. For this, we have with us a very special guest today who interestingly combines life sciences and healthcare research. She will shed light on different aspects of mental health and probably teach us some easy techniques that will help us always stay exuberant. Let me introduce Divya Kanchibotla. She is the Executive Director of Sri Sri Institute of Advanced Research, the research wing of Art of Living. Divya is an engineer and a scientist with BTech and MTech degree in biochemical engineering and biotechnology from IIT Delhi, followed by a master's degree in molecular and human genetics from Baylor College of Medicine, Houston, Texas, USA. She has worked as a senior scientist at Boston Scientific, where she was involved in creating biodegradable stents. A meditation trainer for over 15 years, she has personally trained thousands of people across many countries. She has initiated research studies on Sudarshan Kriya, yoga, holistic techniques of meditation, and Ayurveda, studying novel areas like women's health and psychosocial care that yoga provides. Welcome, Divya. I'm really delighted to speak to you on the occasion of World Mental Health Day.
Hi, Pooja. It's really a pleasure to be here to talk about the mental health and its importance, and what better platform to talk about these things on the World Mental Health Day. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Divya, for someone who has trained people across the globe, how do you define mental health?
Well, you know how physical health is all about your body, mental health is all about your mind. And sometimes, a strong mind can a weak body. And we see that all the time. We see that people who get diseases like cancer or non-communicable diseases like diabetes, somehow if they have a strong mind, they're able to manage it well. But sometimes a weak mind cannot even carry a strong body. If you're constantly prone to worrying or not having a strong mind or not having good resilience, then small things in life can throw you off. So, how physical health is all about the body, mental health is all about your mind, how strong your mind is, how healthy your mind is, what is your perception of life, how positive it is versus how negative it is. So, it is all about the quality of your mind, which I think is more important determinant of quality of life sometimes than physical health.
Okay. So there were a lot of times people keep putting mental health issues under the carpet. So, what are the signs to look out for in a person who's suffering from mental health issues?
So, some of the signs of poor mental health to look out for in your family members or co workers or people that you love are a sudden change in their behavior,
Okay.
excessive worry or apathy, lack of interest, not wanting to communicate. If they want to, they stop enjoying things they used to enjoy, or they spend too much time on social media, they do not want to engage with people, they worry about things too much. So these are some of the signs you must look at. Excessive sleeping, like sometimes, especially for young people, they sleep too much, get angry, very moody. So I would say a drastic change in their personality, or and lack of interest in normal things that would interest them, are definitely few signs to look out for someone who is going through mental health. Especially, I see that with younger people or older people or even people of our parents' generation.
Yeah.
When they were growing up, they didn't know what depression was. Like, I never heard that word either till I was, I think, in IIT, that there is something called as depression. So I think many times people don't even know how to identify it or understand what's going on with them. But if we see them moving away from normal behavior, worrying excessively, losing interest, getting very, very moody, then that there might be some signs to look out for.
Okay, okay. So what are the various forms of mental illness? Like anxiety, phobia. So what are the different forms of mental illness, and are they easily identifiable?
Um, well, mental illness, just like, so it's a spectrum, I say. It can it can be something as excessively worrying about, day-to-day life things, to as severe as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder or PTSD. So there are many now, more and more psychiatrists are classifying different types of mental illness. So there are, even in anxiety, there are different types of anxiety. So definitely anxiety is the most common mental illness in the world, followed by depression. But in India, depression is the most common. So, according to a
Okay.
survey done by NIMHANS 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they found that depression was the most common illness, mental disorder in India, followed by anxiety. But then there are many more. There's schizophrenia, bipolar, self harm ideation, which nobody really talks about, but it's quite prevalent in India, and OCDs, PTSD. So there are many, but the most common ones are depression and anxiety.
Okay. So also, Divya, you deal with hundreds of people every day. What, as per you, are the warning signs of mental health?
Um, like I said, if we observe that someone's behavior has changed, and they are losing interest in life, so apathy, excessive worry, uh, being very moody, like ups and being very up and down, being very happy, then being very sad, worrying too much. All these are signs that we must look out for. Excessive social media use is linked. It works both ways. Sometimes when people use social media too much, they can get depressed, or they, especially young people, they can get depressed or they can have anxiety around it. There's lots of research that connects high social media use to high risk of mental illness. But it's also a sign that somebody is undergoing something, and cutting themselves off from people around them. So, lack of social connection is also a sign that we must look out for when people are. Um, it's a sign that some people might be undergoing some anxiety or depression like issues that need to be addressed.
What are the various reasons that can cause mental health issues? Are there any
There,
specific risk factors to this?
there are many. So my background is genetics. So I've always been very interested in, can there be a genetic basis of diseases like this? Because we know things like schizophrenia or depression have a high environmental aspect to them as well. But in
Yeah.
fact, one of my research projects in US was on understanding the genetic basis of schizophrenia. But what
Yeah.
we are realizing more and more is that definitely there's a genetic component to it. So if your family members have had mental illness or disorders, the risk of you getting those disorders is high, but that percentage is small. Most of
Okay.
the reasons by which somebody gets these disorders are environmental or lifestyle based. So, for example, if you've been through some trauma in your childhood, or some excessive stress, or
Yeah.
poor eating habits or not exercising. So there are many risk factors for us to get such one to get such mental illnesses, and very small percentage of that is genetic. It's mostly to do with our life situations and lifestyle.
Lifestyle
So
more
if you,
so. Yeah.
yeah, lifestyle and life situations, of course, lifestyle, if you don't exercise at all, and also a company. These are small things that put us at risk. For example, if our company is always somebody like we hang out with people who are always talking negative, we don't feel uplifted, right? We tend to sort of go in, our mind also starts going in that direction. While if we
Definitely.
can spend some time in meditation or listening to things that are positive or uplifting, it definitely has its impact on the mind. So, like I said, mental health is all about the mind. So, how do you take care of your mind? So, if you don't really invest in taking time to take care of your mind, then you are at a risk of developing something like this, especially if you have a family history.
So Divya, with all your years of experience as a trainer, today, can you teach us some techniques that can help us cope better?
Yeah, yoga based techniques and yoga has been now so widely researched when it comes to treating depression and anxiety. In fact, the hallmark technique of Art of Living, which Art of Living has been teaching for 40 years, Sudarshan Kriya, which is a rhythmic breathing technique. It has helped so many people who have had depression or anxiety or even PTSD. So on this interview today, or in this today, I cannot teach you Sudarshan Kriya, but I can teach you one very effective breathing technique called the alternate nostril pranayam or Nadi Shodhan, which is very effective in balancing our right and left brain. And it also brings in a lot of prana in the body. Prana is subtler than oxygen. It's the life force energy. It is basically called chi or prana, which basically moves the life force in the body. So to me, it amazes that people who made these techniques thousands and thousands of years ago, they had so much knowledge about how the brain functions, how the right and the left side of the body are connected to different sides, different hemispheres in the brain. It is unbelievable that they had that knowledge, and based on that, they made these techniques. And now science is rediscovering the benefits of these techniques.
Yeah.
So, one very simple technique to learn is alternate nostril breathing or Nadi Shodhan Pranayam. And for that, what I need us to do is we do it with our right hand, and the left hand we can put on our lap, on our knee, with palms open towards the sky, and we can touch our thumb and the forefinger like this on our left
Okay.
hand, and we can put it on
This is
our
the way.
lap.
Is this the way to do it?
Correct. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
And you can bring that on your knee, and just, and the right hand, you what we will do is, for me, I'm wearing glasses, so and I'll keep mine on, but if you want, you can remove them. And first I'll demonstrate, then we can do it together. So what we do is, our index finger and the longest finger, we it comes in between the eyebrows. The
Okay.
thumb goes on the right nostril, and the ring finger goes on the left nostril, like that. We don't press them, we just place them there. If you can come in this position, if you would like to do it with me, then
Yeah.
we close our eyes. It's good to close
Okay.
our eyes so that the mind is just, settling down. Then, with our thumb, we close our right nostril gently and exhale through the left. So, exhaling through the left nostril, then we breathe in through the left nostril, close the left nostril, exhale through the right, and breathe in through the right, close the right nostril, exhale through the left, breathe in through the left, close the left, exhale through the right nostril, breathe in through right, close right, exhale through left, breathe in through left, close, exhale through right, Breathe in through right, close, exhale through left, and you can relax with your eyes closed. And whenever you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes.
This really was rejuvenating. So, and can we practice this any time of the day, anywhere, or is there a particular you have to sit in a certain posture and then do it?
No, you can, as long as your spine is erect, you can do it
Okay.
anytime, anywhere. Many of these breathing techniques are good to do a little bit on a lighter stomach, because if your stomach is too full with food, then you will find difficulty in your diaphragm pushing down on your stomach. So the breathing will be a little shallow. So it will be good if we can do it on a light stomach. And but we can do it any time of the day. It's great if you cannot fall asleep at night, and I did it only for a few minutes. You can do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes even. It actually balances both the right and the left side of the brain, brings more harmony in the body, and also helps in vagus nerve activation. So it has many benefits, and it's very useful whenever you are in the
Okay.
middle, you want to calm yourself down or give yourself more energy.
All right. I am sure this is going to be very helpful for a lot of people. And Divya, I've heard you talk about vagus nerve. You just did that again. So, what is it actually, and how does it affect our mental well-being?
So we have so many thousands and thousands of nerves in our body, but the longest nerve in our body is the vagus nerve. And it starts from the back of your head somewhere here, and it goes all the way till your anus. So it basically covers the entire body, and it is responsible for all the involuntary functions of the body. So we have two types of functions, right? I mean, there are certain functions in our body that we can control. So I can control when I want to speak and when I don't want to speak, for the most part. But then there are functions in our body, like how fast my heart is beating, or digestion, that I can't really control. I cannot control whether I will digest my food right now or not. So those are the functions that the vagus nerve manages, and those are the functions that actually determine a lot of our mental and physical health.
Okay.
For example, if when your heart rate is very high, you cannot feel relaxed, or when your digestion is not good, you cannot feel healthy. So, vagus nerve is a very important nerve in the body that controls a lot of important functions, has a direct impact on mental health. And research is showing that more and more deep breathing, yoga, meditation, techniques like this are helping the vagus nerve get more activated. And in fact, scientists are now artificially stimulating vagus nerve to cure depression. So I say
Okay.
that, why do you need to artificially, they put an electrical impulse thing in your body that sends electrical impulses to vagus nerve and cures depression. But I say, why do you need an electrical impulse pacemaker type of a thing in your body? If you can just meditate or do Sudarshan Kriya once a day, twice a day, it'll activate your vagus nerve and keep you so healthy, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. That's really interesting. If people can learn these techniques, also, Divya, can deterioration in mental health be related to age?
Yes, as we grow older, sometimes many older people are beginning to get depressed or sad, or they feel lonely because the family is not with them, or they don't find a purpose in their life. So yes, many older people. I mean, depression or anxiety is something that affects children as young as 3 years old, and it can
Yeah.
also affect somebody as old as 80 or 90. So there is no age for mental illness. It can affect anybody at any time. But definitely there is a lot of talk about senior people having mental health issues, and one way to take care of that is, again, finding some time to meditate during a day. But there's a very big research study from Harvard that shows that if you have purpose in your life, if you can find a purpose that connects you to something higher than just about you, then you are less depressed. Then you are more happy. So I think I would encourage all the seniors and young people also to find a purpose in their life, to contribute to service. There is so much that needs to be done in India. So if we can do a
Yeah,
little bit of service in our life, find a calling that is higher than us, then it
yeah.
helps our mental health along with, doing other things.
But now, so now more than ever, we're seeing a lot of younger people also getting depressed. So why is this phenomena there? I mean, when we were growing up, we these words did not even exist in our dictionary.
Correct.
We see so many younger people, they're complaining of I'm
Yeah.
angry, I'm anxious. So you keep hearing these words all the time. So what could be the reason for that?
I think many things. I think that social media is one of the biggest reasons why young people are facing mental health issues, because a lot of their self worth is linked to,
Yeah.
the Instagram and likes on
Well, like,
Instagram or Facebook, or well, they don't use Facebook so much, but Snapchat and Instagram. But also we have to understand that the younger brain is not as developed as an adult brain, so they are still developing their brain, and so the areas that in our brain that control the impulse decisions or control judgments are not as developed in their brain, in a teenage brain. So what happens, they act from the center of the brain that has to do more with emotions. So what happens, their coping strategies for stress are low, and the amount of stress that they are facing is increasing a lot. It has increased exponentially, I would say, in terms of competitiveness in the exams, or with the social media, and a pressure to look a certain way, to be a certain way. In fact, so many of them are resorting to smoking and drugs. So I think for them, they have to be given an experience of techniques like at this age, which are like breathing, yoga, meditation, so that they can manage their mind and their emotions. Because one, we have to understand their brain is not as developed, so we cannot expect them to respond in the same way as an adult does to a situation. And secondly, the amount of stress they are facing is much higher than they were facing 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So this is the reason why the mental health issues amongst the young people are growing so much.
what are the most common mental health issues you see in India today?
Depression, anxiety, I think with this pandemic, now fear, uncertainty,
Fear
that
is a
all
new one
leads
now. Yeah.
that all leads to anxiety. There is so much anxiety, and now it's turning into depression, I think. There was a survey by Indian Psychiatry Society, I think early in the pandemic, that showed that 20% increase in mental illness has happened in India, and one
Yeah.
out of every five people is experiencing it now. It used to be 1 in 7 or one
Yeah.
in 10 a few years ago. Now it's 1 in 5 according to their survey.
Yeah. COVID
But what,
19
yeah.
has taken a huge toll on mental health. Any tips on dealing with it?
First of all, um, I
Besides
think,
the technique. Yeah.
yeah. So I think for COVID-19, resilience is very important. Resilience to overcome a stressful situation. And of course, how you build resilience is, sorry to harp on it again, but how you build resilience is either through, see, some people naturally have a higher resilience to stress. We see people around us, and some people thrive on stress. They like stress. It motivates them to, do better. So some people naturally have a good resilience, some people don't. And I think those in COVID-19, the other thing, one, we should increase our resilience. Secondly, I think social connectedness is very important. I think a lot of people, because of the lockdown and not being able to go out, are feeling lonely. So a sense of, and that adds to, feeling of depression or anxiety. Loneliness is a very big predictor of poor mental health. So I think having a sense of social connection is very important. So I encourage that even if nobody is calling you, or you feel like everybody has forgotten you, please reach out to a couple of people that you know, even through video calls, or even through um, just a nice phone call or a chat. I think that is important. Also, there is a research that shows that the more people are watching, well, now in India we are not talking about it so much now, but the more people are watching the news, the poorer their mental health was about COVID. There was a research from University of California. So I think not getting, so one, managing our social media consumption, increasing our social connectedness, reaching out to those we love, just checking in on people. I think that is important. And taking some time to connect with yourself every day. Know that this will pass. Nothing stays.
Yeah.
But taking that time to connect with ourselves every day, just quietly, even for 5 to 20 minutes a day. There are so many resources available online. You go to YouTube, there are so many guided meditations. Art of Living has so many. You can just, and they're available. Just put that guided meditation, just sit for 20 minutes. Just connecting with yourself, even for a few minutes a day, calming down, will have a huge, huge impact on the mental and physical health of an individual.
Sure, Sujan. Sure, the mantra here is stay connected, with the world around you and with yourself. So
Correct.
that's,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, can mental illness be prevented, and can a person begin to feel better if somebody is
Absolutely.
already suffering? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, there's lots and lots of research on yoga and Sudarshan Kriya that showed that doing Sudarshan Kriya is as effective as taking an antidepressant, and it has no side effects. Um, so there is a lot of research that shows that yoga and meditation and breathing techniques have a role to play in improving mental health, and people can really, really get better depending on where they are. Even PTSD is shown to improve with yoga and with Sudarshan Kriya as well. How can it be prevented? It can absolutely be prevented. Rather than saying that can mental illness be prevented, I would say, can we promote good mental health? Because,
Yeah.
see, just like physical health, mental health is also a neutral term. It can be poor or good. So, can we
Yeah.
promote good mental health? And we can certainly do that by giving people skills to deal with stressful situations in their life. Because it is not like they will not have stress in their life. Stress
Yeah.
is an inevitable part of our lifestyle today. We cannot escape it unless until we go sit in a cave in Himalayas. Probably we'll be stressed even there. So we
Yeah.
cannot escape from stress. But what we can do is build a toolkit, build a set of things we can do when we feel overwhelmed. So in that, breathing comes. Even this alternate nostril breathing or breathing techniques are important because breath has a direct connection with your vagus nerve. It has a direct connection with so many physiological systems in your body that can help you improve mental health. And breath stays with you at all times. So, breathing, and then to promote good mental health, like I said, social connection with people, taking out some time for yourself, being in nature is also very good for good mental health. And these are some of the things one can do. And exercise, exercise is also very good.
All right. Sure. Divya, you have done a lot of sorry, Divya, you have done a lot of research on women health, and we see pregnant women have to deal with anxiety, stress, and tension at most times. Do you have any tips for them too?
For pregnant women, once again, I'll say that vagus nerve activation is very important. There's research that shows that mothers, when they are stressed, how in when we were like, I remember my mother telling me things like when she was pregnant, they would make them look at beautiful photos and they would make sure the woman is not stressed. It has it has its reasons. Why? Because now research shows that if a mother is not taken care of, if a mother is very, very stressed when she's pregnant, the
Yeah.
child that is born is at a high risk of cardiovascular disease, high risk of obesity. So actually, you're determining your child's health before they're even born if you don't take care of yourself. So again, for a pregnant woman, it is important that you take care of yourself. It is important that you take out time to be happy. Do what we have shared so many tips and tricks already. You know,
Yeah.
um, whatever, being in nature is so good, yoga is so good, um, um, eating right, these are things a mother must do. Otherwise, the baby that you're carrying inside, the human being that is going to be born out of you, you're sort of determining their future before they're even born, if the mother is stressed. So it's very, very important for pregnant women to take care of themselves. And they can listen to chanting. It's extremely good because it's a very effortless way of stimulating the vagus nerve.
Okay.
So things like chanting, breathing, exercise, yoga, whatever, exercise only what the doctor tells them, and eating right. These are some of the things a mother can do, and staying happy.
Yeah,
A mother
that's
should do that.
yes. Uh, can drug use also cause mental health conditions?
Drug use, so substance abuse and poor mental health are highly correlated, because sometimes what happens, people who some drugs or substances like alcohol, when they withdraw from your system, they create sadness, they create depression like symptoms. And on the other hand, people who have poor mental health sometimes abuse these substances, like alcohol or drugs, to feel better, because addiction and depression, they both involve similar areas in the brain. And because we don't feel so good about ourselves, or we're feeling sad or unhappy when we have poor mental health, we use the drugs to fire up our reward system in the brain. So there's a system in the brain. You must have heard of this word called dopamine. Like, it's very commonly
Yeah.
used now. So that's a reward system in the brain. So exercise can activate dopamine, or doing yoga, meditation, or doing something kind for somebody can activate that reward system too. But drugs and alcohol also work through the same system. So many times, people who are having poor mental health use substances like alcohol or smoking or drugs to feel better about what they are going through, and vice versa as well. So there's a high correlation between substance use and poor mental health. But the good thing is, yoga also works on the same pathways. So instead of feeling high through drugs, one can use yoga to activate the same reward pathway as well.
Yeah. Exercise and yoga. Yes.
Yeah,
They
exercise
will.
also works
They
the
will.
same pathway. Yeah.
Yes. And how is PTSD treated? Is there like a non medical way to treat PTSD also?
Yes. The most commonly used thing to treat PTSD is psychotherapy, which is cognitive behavior therapy, where where one is given something called as exposure therapy, where they are given exposure to the stressful situation, but in a safe environment. So that is becoming very, very common along with medication to treat PTSD, exposure therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. However, more and more and more people are exploring alternative things, mind body interventions, to to work with PTSD, to see how we can manage PTSD without medication. So mind body interventions are also being explored a lot, like mindfulness, meditation, etc.
And are these techniques effective? Is there research proving that they are effective?
Yes. So there was one study that compared CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, to Sudarshan Kriya, and showed that Sudarshan Kriya was as effective in removing symptoms of PTSD or helping people manage symptoms of PTSD. And there was another study on PTSD in Sudarshan Kriya, in which even after a year of learning Sudarshan Kriya and not even practicing regularly, people were still feeling better. So their symptoms were down. So see, anything with the mind, we can work with the breath, because the mind and the breath are connected. Research is showing that more and more and more, that every emotion, we change our rhythm with every emotion. The breath rhythm changes with every emotion. We are able to manage a lot of things in our the brain function changes with the type of breathing. So anything to do with the mind, we can work with the breath and it will be effective because they're all connected. So no matter
So,
what the condition, breathing can help.
every
Breathing techniques can
breath
help.
breathing technique. Similarly, do environmental factors, pollutions, or chemicals increase the risk of getting a mental illness?
Environmental factors for sure. Pollutions and pollutants and chemical, I would say they have a bigger impact on physical health, and that's how they impact the mental health. There are some particulate matters, chemical matters like pollutants, which can actually enter the bloodstream and enter the brain. So there are some like that. However, I would say that chemicals and pollutants impact the physical health, and via the physical health they impact the mental health a little bit more. But environmental factors are super important for promoting good mental health or creating poor mental health. For example, how you live, where you live, what kind of support system do you have, what but more so basically but more of these, see, all these things are on one side, but lifestyle choices we make are on the other. So if we make good lifestyle choices, if we eat right, if we avoid eating too much processed food, if we
Yeah.
exercise, if we move our body, if we have a good social support system, if we take out some time to connect with ourselves, then no matter where we live, at least our chances of having good mental health will be higher.
Divya, we've seen with today's lifestyle, the sleep cycle's almost gone for a toss. So, is there a link between mental health, mental illness, and sleep?
Yes. Because, see, I'll give you an example. How many times we something happens to us during a day, during the daytime, somebody says something to us, and at night we are trying to sleep, but we are not able to sleep because our mind keeps replaying that same situation over and over and over again. Or when we
Yeah.
are worried about something, we are not able to sleep. So, sleep, and then when we are not able to sleep, research is showing that if you're not able to sleep the next day, your judgments section in the brain doesn't work that well, your cognition is down, and your the way you perceive somebody else's what they're saying to you, the way you perceive that can also change. So it's like a negative spiral. When we don't have good mental health, we don't sleep well. When we don't sleep well, our brain and body doesn't function in an optimal manner the next day, and that again leads us to uh, perceiving things in a more stressful manner or feeling more stressed, and then again we are not able to sleep well. So mental health and sleep are very, very connected. In fact, I think in the history of time, we are sleeping the least that we have ever slept. We are getting the least amount of sleep. And one of the biggest reasons for that is our phones that we take into bed with us. That's one of the reasons, Netflix and, binging. And that has increased tremendously during this pandemic time.
We are all guilty of doing that.
Everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, sleep and mental health are definitely connected. So there are certain things one can do for their sleep. There is a very beautiful thing called yoga nidra, which is the yogic sleep, which many people don't know about. And it is different than shavasana. It is yogic nidra is yogic sleep. And at night, if you're not able to sleep, if you just again, it's available on YouTube. If you Google yogic nidra or yoga nidra, you will come across many yoga nidras. Art of Living also has its yoga nidras on YouTube. If you play those things, they're just small, like maybe 20-minute thing where you direct attention to different parts of your body. It'll really allow you to really sink deep. You don't have to sit up, you can do it while lying down in your bed. Just play that, and it'll help one sleep better. And that's a very beautiful thing. Even I do sometimes when I am, not able to sleep, had too busy a day, feeling very wired, not able to calm down enough to go to bed. So then I just put that yoga nidra, and it really, really helps.
I'm sure a lot of people would now be Googling that after listening to you. Yeah. And my last question for you today is what is the best way to talk to somebody about mental health issues?
in a kind way, being kind to them, coming from us, not condescending, but coming from a space of kindness, allowing them. I think one should speak to somebody about their mental health when they are themselves feeling rested and have the patience to listen, because it's not an easy thing for anyone to talk about. And when we are speaking to somebody about their mental health, then we must be kind. We must have the patience to listen to them and talk less, and come from a space of acceptance. See, people can feel our vibrations more than they feel our words. So if we are sitting there judging them or just waiting for them to finish so that we can speak, people are not going to be open to us. So if we can really be, first of all, calm ourselves, in a good mental health ourselves, and then come to them from a space of kindness and acceptance, and allow them to share no matter how long it takes. That's the way to speak to somebody, I would say.
Thank you, Divya. It has been absolutely delightful speaking to you today. Looking at the non-medical aspect of treating such a serious issue like mental health. And I am sure the techniques you've taught us, we're all going to practice, and we can all overcome the mental health issues that people are facing. Thank you so much for being with us today, Divya.
Thank you, Pooja. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.